welcome back. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If this is your first time, my name is Mamri and you are very welcome. This video is about the prisoners, how they are using them to integrate them into the system. Once again, it's about farming. I've shared a video here before when they are located farms and land for them to be farming and all that. And this is another one. The officer were interviewed to tell us inside information how they are doing it and everything. So those my families that were saying that they should use them for farming, your wishes has come true. I've worked on it, families. Listen up to the end because it's long and I'll be back. Thank you so much for your time.
Madam, sir, it's time for our rendezvous on the trades of the land, and Burkina television is getting into the agricultural spirit. As you can imagine, Burkina's prisons and collection centers are also involved in agricultural production. As you'll see, we're going to take a look at the Dougus in Vapolo and Agawa. But first, let's install our guest. Madam, Monsieur, we're joined in this edition by Senior Penitentiary Security Inspector Suleiman Gerbourd, Inspector Bonsoir. Good evening, I have Vikana, thank you for being here to address our concerns. The Penitentiary Security Inspector on Verbal Menace and the Director of Penitentiary Production and Vocational Training. They have a total of 17 years' experience in the prison service. Before becoming Director of Penitentiary Production and Vocational Training, they held other positions of responsibility, such as the position of Director of the Leo Prison and Collection Center, also Zignary, and many other positions, so it's with a man of experience that we're going to talk to this issue of agriculture to understand agricultural production in penitentiary centers. Inspector, before continuing with this program, we also took a tour of several collection houses. We saw the experience of agricultural production there. So we're going to take stock of the situation before moving on. This morning, when these Bapolo inmates meet up again, continue to the sorghum field, where the harvest has just begun. 80 tons of all crops are expected this year at the Vapolo Agricultural Production Center. We haven't achieved 100% of the results, but what we see, we think, and we're satisfied. We're all the more satisfied because, given the difficulties we've been through and the returns we expect, we can say that we're above average. We've been through droughts and floods. But despite everything, we're expecting a yield of around 80 canvases. So we think that, in any case, we've done our best, and we think that if the difficulties are overcome and the campaign gets underway, it'll be the wet campaign of the future. We can multiply these figures by 2, even 3, if not more. The Debigots Prison and Collection Center is also experimenting with open-air detention for the first time, with a view to increasing agricultural production. 17 inmates are put to work right from the start of the season. On the 16 hectares, 2 crops are produced. 5 hectares for corn and 11 hectares for sorghum. It's the last day of harvest for the Sorogo, under the gaze of the management of the prison and collection of Summer Dugo this year. Planted 2 crops, sorghum on 11 hectares and maize on 5.5 hectares. So at the start of the campaign, we set ourselves a target. Use 150 100 kilo bags. And all the while knowing that records east of 111 100 kilograms bags produced in 2022. But right now, we've exceeded our targets by not expecting 200 100 kilo bags on average. The Maison d'Ales et de Collection de Gawa, currently 400 inmates strong, also produced during the Humide 2024-2025 campaign on this 10-hectare perimeter. Maize and sweet potatoes are chosen based on surface area. This year, this is mainly for potatoes, estimated at around 1 hectare. Corn is sown on 8 hectares. This year, as a technician, I'm personally not satisfied. In any case, I was hoping to surpass the results you've seen. At the moment, I estimate this result at 15 to 15 tons. That's for corn and 5 tons for potatoes. Every prison. From now on, we'll be increasing our acreage, diversifying our crops and growing off-season crops. But it's one thing to have ambitions, it's quite another to have the means to implement them. This is where expectations are high. 17 plots who were able to farm 16 hectares. With a production of 200 kilo bags, i.e. 20 tons, we could proceed by extrapolation. It's true that if we could help to increase the surface area, we could achieve great things, and there's no doubt that we'll contribute to food self-sufficiency in the Kinafacon pot. In addition to rising, the station is also increasing its power. We think that if we could provide a solar power supply, it would really enable us to be more self-sufficient. In the event of load shedding, we can work. And with global warming too, we think solar is an alternative. To really enable us to achieve the objectives assigned to these centers. We want to know if the authorities can help us with a castle. Water menu. We're an irrigation system. And to work properly in the dry season. Secondly, we would like the authorities to help us build premises. So much for prisoner housing. And then, to make surveillance easier, we can even place inmates there for work, and finally there's the means of transport. So, if we can win, we can have vehicles that are better suited to transporting documents. In the meantime, Didougou is benefiting from a borehole and an agricultural production facility provided by the presidential initiative. The Vaporo Agricultural Production Center, meanwhile, benefits from a partnership with a private company to farm 80 hectares. During the dry season. Directors, come and follow them. What does the fact that we've also made observations in Dougous, Bapolo and Gawar inspire in you? Okay, thank you, Mr. Michael. Before I say anything else, allow me to thank the famous authorities from the Ministry of Justice. Monsieur le Ministre de la Justice, garde des six de tres General de l'Homme Pénitentiaire in any case, who spared no thought to accompany us in any case. To come back to your question, we watched the documentary. And that's the real feeling of any prison manager, to say the least. Because, as you've heard, with the system that's just been launched, the wholesale offensive on the ethical calendar, essential initiatives for agro-production on the past, ethical too, so we've effectively modeled, if not adapted, at least the principle to be able to boost our production in prisons too. So we're talking 80 tons. Well, for them 20 tons. There's also 20 tons of taste in Gawar. In view of the investment you've made, as Director of Agricultural Production and Vocational Training, are you satisfied with the results? Well, as a technician. Satisfaction? I'd say that if we're going down that road, there are plenty of parameters that may not have been met, because we should have gone further. When you farm an area with the given speculations, you've seen that they are technical. You have to have at least that much in at least 1 hectare, etc. But if we look at this consideration, we see that we're a bit. The average is respected, but we are indeed a little below expectations. But that doesn't mean we can't do better next year. And the people in charge, the inmates and all these people are really motivated by the Court of Penitentiary Pollution. And if we stay with agricultural production, then what's the final destination? Okay, so prison pollution, as I say, has 3 components. There's prison pollution. In agriculture, there's animal pollution. There is also what we call pollution from workshops and sales of goods, i.e. what is produced. The destination of this production is clearly stated in the decree, and as I said, the decree will concern the management committee. So everything that's agricultural production when we finish the fields, everything that you see as production, there's a distribution key in kind. First of all, in kind, which means that 2/3 of production is marketed. 1/3 of the production from these fields is destined for consumption. Of course, we've seen the cases of Vapo, Dogo, and Gaur, but we know that agricultural production isn't only carried out in these penitentiary centers. There are many other centers throughout the production territory. What's the situation today? Agricultural production. Maybe we need to take a step back and also look at what was produced in 2023. In 2023, we harvested a total of 117 hectares from all the prisons, producing 58 tons. 117 hectares different with 58 tons in 2023, for 2024. You've seen with everything we've seen, there's been a patriotic surge. We have also received support from the Ministry of Agriculture, particularly the Pastoral Water Offensive by the General Directorate of Plant Production and even the National Office for Major Projects. All these structures have lent their support to the administration so that we can boost prison pollution. And that's how we ended up in 2024, with a total of 274 hectares and an expected production of 260. And a few tons expected from cereals, not including market crops. All this is due to the foresight and support of the authorities, and to the policy put in place to boost prison pollution. As you pointed out with the Agro-Pastoral and Haleutic Offensive and the Presidential Initiative for Agricultural Production, there have been agreements to support centers with a tradition of agricultural production. As Director of Agricultural Production, what are the identified shortcomings this year? So the shortcomings, as I say, are mainly threefold, as already mentioned. And then there are questions linked to the field. We don't have enough land or high surface area to expand as much as we'd like. We only completed 160 hectares this year, but we have potential to reach 1,000 hectares in the future. So we also a shortage of technicians affecting agricultural production. As you well know, we've already specialized at least 8 elements, 8 of whom have been trained at Matricule and 9 at Enhisa in agro-pastoral production. But that's enough, it doesn't cover all the prisons. The third component is mechanization. As you can see, everything we do is done by hand. Apart from tractors for plowing, we lack essential equipment like seed drills for large areas. These are the tools we need to speed things up, in terms of semis, maintenance, soil, terrain, and so on. This will enable us to go even further. So it's true that we are, as I said, supported by the agglomeration and agriculture where we had 50 hectares plowed free of charge. Well, even 160. The land was plowed free of charge, but chemical fertilizers were donated to produce on 50 hectares. This is really a gift from the Ministry of Agriculture to support potential pollution. So I think the difficulties we've already seen with the documentary, including everything we've said, I think there's no shortage, but it's not as alarming and it's going to create obstacles for us to move forward. We're going to move forward with what we've already got, and I believe that with the support of the authorities, we can do better. We haven't even reached half of the resources we want to make available to the population. So it's a real call to take a look at this production in college. And in any case, we really have some marvelous things to do. Over and above contributing to the production of food for prisons, contributing to the supply of food, or at least generating funds. How does prison production benefit prisoners? Yes, the point is it's also when we talk about prison work. So where did the skin of the penitentiary actually come from? But I think that a prisoner who sits in detention for 2, 3, 4 years without doing anything, I think that this person, we are nurturing in him nothing but laziness. But if we give him the opportunity to get out, to use his intelligence and physical strength to produce something that will serve him, since the resources we've produced will serve him anyway, he gets something out of it. First of all, he's ensured his health and also, as you said, the principle of food production in prisons. Today, when we want prisoners to contribute to their own diet, it's necessarily through food production. When a prisoner goes out to work, rest assured that he's learning a trade at the same time. One last question before we listen to some inmates. What are the prospects for agricultural production? What are the prospects? And it's on the basis of the difficulties we're experiencing that we can perhaps plan ahead and also think about professionalizing penitentiary production. So when I don't professionalize, I first start to specialize the production zones. When you look at Vaporo today, which is specially designed for agricultural production on the ethical calendar, we can do it elsewhere. It's only the Barbolo that exists as an agricultural penitentiary center, whereas in the Court of Appeal of Bobo we can do it. In the Cour d'Appel de Fada, you can have ashes like that. Perhaps these two actually believe in the collaboration of landowners to make it available to large areas. We've also tried to get Sir Gubila to go 50 hectares, but that's not enough. 50 hectares is true, it could be a center, but when we talk about experience, we're talking about hundreds of hectares. That's 500. We're going to specialize the prisons, or houses of correction, which only go to Charay, in the issue of convicts to train them, and also the agricultural production centers to actually deal with the issue of agricultural production. So right now, we also need to specialize staff, which is also important. We need to mechanize the prison farms. That means sending out specific tools of what we call agriculture, for maybe we have the human resources, it's true, but if there are technical tools that can allow us to go faster and very well above all. So there you have it. So there are also new systems that we want to integrate into the prisons, into the agricultural production centers, particularly in terms of contract farming. What is contract farming? It will enable our Petenary centers to produce results. You've seen production centers enter into contracts with partners for contract farming? It's a matter of fact, and then we said that there's a part that's sold. It's not that we're selling it. It's about injecting more into prison production. So if we already guarantee this source that we're going to sell to someone who's ready to buy, to someone who's ready to say, well, here are the resources, I can say that it's available so that we can produce on a large scale. So it encourages even those who are going to work. This means that we can have everything we need to work on time, especially on time, with the guarantee of being able to sell. So we have 1 hectare of production, and we know that in 1 hectare we necessarily have a production expectation of 2 or 3 tons. These are the results to be achieved. So it's going to enable the prison states to achieve these results. That's if you make a contractual result and the network isn't reached. Of course, it's sensitive and then, well, it's going to be events therefore to be avoided, even to reap the benefits of the shortcomings we've had to correct. So I think all these elements will enable us to move forward. Thank you very much, Mr. Director, for all these clarifications. I told you so. We've also heard from some prisoners. All right, we'll listen to them, okay, and then you can respond. What I would have preferred. I know the number of hectares of our field here. Well, even if we can't get any bigger, since we can say that this is almost all the area we farmed this year. So now what I'm asking for is that next year, if at all possible, we redouble our efforts, either in terms of fertilizers, in terms of work tools and personnel, that's it. So that the cat can give. Next year, the song can give more than this year. So you've been following the surgery? 2 first inmates. So that raises the question of inputs, which raises the question that next year, provide them with enough inputs, enough equipment. Yeah, we also need to reinforce the staff. So what do you say? Answering his question also means reliving the word. We need to professionalize prison production, leading to a contract and operating account. If you want to do in a field, then this shows you everything you need to cultivate that field. In terms of inputs, in terms of needs, in terms of everything you need to produce in specific areas. Can we guarantee that he'll have the answer to that? Of course we can. That's what we're working on. You'll see that starting in March or April, we're going to give this information to the people in charge of the prisons, so that they can give us real estimates, based on your meetings, of the causes of each activity. Naturally, there will be acreage requirements, human resource requirements and fertilizer requirements. And above all what he said and above all what he expects, because if you don't have an account of citizens at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the campaign, you can't even know how much fertilizer to bring to a field. How much fertilizer will we need to do it? We're going to get into the field when we haven't even quantified or got an idea of what we're going to put into the field. So the solution is to make arrangements to have all the information at the start of the year, at the start of the campaign. So, Mr. Director, let's move on to the second speaker, shall we? I hope we can get some support. After that, our present is that we're going to undertake here, so that we can be supported outside. So that we can practice the trade against by learning here. Here is perhaps material. No, maybe? Advice, in any form of support only. Human beings need that to overcome certain things. Yes, I'd like to see support not just for him, but for the other inmates too. Because, as we said, prison production also means training. He wants to be supported when they get out of prison so that he can settle down, because he does too. So he can look forward to a solution to his concern. The solution is already there. Already there, eh? As part of the job creation we've been hearing about, from the training courses we'll be running with the training references that will soon be available. When you leave prison, you have to come out with a well-drafted project based on the training you've received in detention at the time, with support in terms of installation kits. So that can also be the source. So the solution is there, the solution is there. With this good news, we're going to breastfeed. Thank you for joining us. We were with the Senior Penitential Security Inspector on Gerboard Miles. He's the Director of Prison Production and Vocational Training. Thank you for joining us. See you next month for another edition of your program on Earth Professions.
Thank you, families. I'm grateful for your time. At least now we know how they are using them and how they are helping the country to build the country because, well, the crimes that they have done, they have to pay for it and they will not be sitting in jail for the government to be feeding them again. At least when they are out as well, they will get their handwork and they will get some money to start as well, hopefully. So, families, I will leave you here. Credit to our TB News for sharing this with us. I enjoyed the interview while working on it because I know more now than I know before. Yes, so it is great that they share it with us. Anyway, families, God bless you. My kings and queens, my VIPs. Those who are passing by, thank you so much. Like the video, share it if possible, and subscribe if you are new here to support the channel. Let people know what is going on in the AES community. Things are changing and are changing fast. I'll be back with another news. Thank you for your time.